To be is to do. Aristotle was attributed to that quote. To do is to be, and that was Jean-Paul Sartre. Final quote said, "Doobie doobie doo," Frank Sinatra. And existentialism is basically a traditional philosophy discipline in the sense that philosophy is looking for truth, reality, and meaning. And the one thing that is an advantage of existentialism is that they're putting this in the context of the individual lived experiencer. And so each of us have this context of life experience that we are kind of developing. How do we develop our own life history? How do we develop our own life projects? And then hopefully we can gain control over our lives in a meaningful way and produce a kind of sense of what it means to be an individual within the context that we are growing up in. What are some negative aspects of existentialism? Existentialists have this kind of difficulty of reconciling the idea of conflict within two consciousnesses, and then how do we get to this reciprocal relationship that I think love is defined by. How do we then negotiate this idea of love within this idea of struggle? And I think this is really difficult for existentialists, but I think the key is not just think about love in terms of some smooth, harmonious relationship, but think about love in terms of some connection with another person that does involve struggle. One of the things that existentialism isn't really good at is some kind of social and collective idea of action. So they reduce everything down, or most existentialists reduce everything down to the lived individual, and the starting point is always this individual consciousness, and that's what they think truth always emanates from, is an individual consciousness. They are always worried about the conformity issues. Once the group takes over, the idea that we start to meld within this herd, as Nietzsche calls it, or the they, as Heidegger calls it, then we lose that kind of authentic choice. And so they're worried about that, and maybe too worried about that, because then it takes away from any hope of some social transformation, where we can have authentic social choices that go outside of this matrix of conformity, if you will. Socrates was the original existentialist because Socrates said, among other things, to know thyself, to know what are the contexts of our experiences, and to understand how these experiences shape the experience of being human. We are all philosophical people, and that's what Martin Heidegger says, is that we live philosophically.